want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine you're at your desk, the fluorescent lights are humming, maybe you're stuck in traffic, and you need out.
Yeah.
You picture yourself in Yosemite. You're channeling your inner Alex Honnold. You've got the rack slung over your shoulder. You're pulling up to the valley floor. Golden hour light is hitting El Capitan, and you're just going to casually scale 3,000 feet of granite.
And then grab a celebratory beer at the lodge.
Exactly. It's the ultimate climber's dream, isn't it? The rugged individualism, the silence, the conquest.
It is. It is a beautiful dream. It's the dream that sells millions of dollars of puffy jackets and carabiners every single year.
Right.
But, and I hate to be the one to pop the bubble right at the start, but if we actually look at the logistics, the hard data and the current reality of the park, that fantasy is about to hit a very literal, very expensive granite wall.
I had a feeling you were going to ruin this for me. I've been reading through this guide, Vertical Ambition, and honestly, it felt like a splash of ice water. Because the reality it describes is less majestic solitude and more gridlock.
Gridlock is putting it politely. I mean, the picture painted here is so starkly different from the Patagonia catalog spread.
Totally.
Instead of that breezy, solitary climb, the reality is often a 6-hour traffic jam that makes Los Angeles look like, I don't know, a high-speed racetrack.
Wow.
You aren't casually strolling to a secluded campsite, no. You are fighting a gladiator battle for a 10 by 10 patch of dirt that costs more than a decent motel room used to.
And the real kicker.
And the kicker is when you finally touch the rock, you realize you are woefully, maybe even dangerously, unprepared for the sheer scale of the place.
That's really the hook of this entire deep dive. We are stripping away the romance of Yosemite to focus on the brutal logistics, the genuine risks, and what this guide calls the contrarian surprises of the climbing mecca. So here's our mission today. We need to figure out if the holy ground of rock climbing is actually worth the pilgrimage. Is it a cathedral or is it a trap?
It's the ultimate question for any modern adventurer, right?
Yeah.
And to answer it, we have to grapple with 3 massive surprises that they defy the common wisdom.
Okay, what are they?
First, the era of the dirtbag climber is dead and buried. You cannot live on $5 a day in Yosemite anymore. The economics just don't work.
Okay, that's a big one.
Huge. Second, for I'd say 90% of the people listening to this, the best climbing isn't on El Capitan.
Really? Where is it then?
It might be in a parking lot or on some hidden dome you've never even heard of.
And the third one, this was the one that really stuck with me.
The third one is the most painful. The scariest part of the trip isn't the vertical drop or the exposure.
No.
It's the grocery prices in Yosemite Village.
That is profound and deeply depressing. The fear of death is secondary to the fear of a $20 burger.
Oh, pretty much.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the wallet damage, we have to set the tone here. Because despite all the hassles, there is a real emotional stake.
Oh, for sure.
We are talking about one of the only places on Earth where the physical geography forces you to confront your own mortality in a way that, and this is the paradox, it makes you feel more alive than you have in years.
That's the emotional hook, and it's why people put up with all the misery.
Yeah.
But my role today is to be the wet blanket.
I can see that.
I need to set the logistical stakes. If you take one thing away from this opening, it's this. Yosemite is likely the most administratively stressful vacation you will ever take.
Military-grade planning. That's what the guide says.
It requires military-grade
Right,
planning.
yeah.
If you show up hoping to just wing it or go with the flow, you will be miserable. You'll be sleeping in your car outside the park gates, period.
So let's unpack why that is. Why has it become so intense? I mean, it wasn't always this way. The research points to something called the free solo effect.
This is a massive cultural shift. Ever since the documentary Free Solo won the Oscar and the Dawn Wall hit Netflix, the demographic of the park has fundamentally transformed. Yosemite used to be a sort of a fringe wilderness area for outcasts. Now, it's treated like a gymnasium.
A gymnasium.
Yeah, you have this massive influx of what we call gym climbers.
Right, and we need to clarify this distinction because I think a lot of people assume climbing is climbing, but there's a huge difference between pulling on plastic holds in an air-conditioned gym in Brooklyn or London and, staring up at a real granite face.
It's a completely different sport. It's not even close. In a gym, the route is color-coded. You know exactly where your hand goes. The holds stick out. You get strong. You build endurance.
Sure.
But then these gym crushers, these people who were super strong indoors, they arrive in the valley and they just get shut down.
Why? What's the disconnect?
Because granite climbing specifically trad, or traditional climbing, is about subtlety. It's about friction.
Explain that friction aspect. What does it actually feel like on the rock?
Well, imagine a sheet of glass that's been sanded down just a little bit. That's what polished granite feels like. You often don't have a hold to grab onto.
So what are you doing?
You're smearing. You're relying on the surface area of your rubber shoe sole pressing against a blank slab of rock.
Yeah.
You have to trust physics. You have to stand up on your feet when your brain is just screaming that you are going to slide off. A gym climber looks for a handle. A Yosemite climber looks for a ripple.
And the mental game is different, too. In a gym, if you fall, you catch on a bolt every 5 feet. It's safe.
Exactly. In Yosemite, you are placing your own protection. You're shoving these metal cams into cracks in the rock. If you place it wrong or if you run it out...
Run it out. What's that?
It means you climb, say, 20, 30 feet above your last piece of gear.
Oh.
Well, fall isn't just a little swing anymore. It's a 60-foot whipper. The consequences are real.
So you have this huge skill gap, but you also have an expectation gap. We talked about that fantasy of the solitary fish on the ledge. Social media just perpetuates this lie.
Oh, it's all a lie.
You see a photo on Instagram of someone dangling their feet over the void. Total silence, golden sunset. It looks spiritual.
But the camera frame crops out the reality. The reality is that on any popular route, there are likely 3 other climbing parties on that same ledge.
You can't.
No. You're literally tangling ropes with strangers. You're waiting for them to move. You're smelling their sweat.
And that silence?
That silence doesn't exist in the way you think. Yosemite Valley is a canyon. It's an amphitheater. It traps sound. You're 3,000 feet up, but you can hear the RV generators echoing off the walls. You can hear the shuttle buses beeping down below.
That is such a vivid, disappointing image. The RV generator echoing up the dawn wall, it really highlights the geography problem. People forget how small the actual valley is.
That's the critical context. The park itself is huge, but the famous part, Yosemite Valley, is essentially a 7-mile-long ditch. That's it. And we are pouring 4 million visitors a year into that ditch.
So it's not a wilderness experience.
No, and we need to stop pretending it is. We need to frame this as urban park management. The defining context of your entire trip will be scarcity.
Scarcity of what?
Scarcity of everything. Camping, parking, solitude. It's a resource management game from the second you arrive.
There's also this concept in the guide of the stadium that the park has become a performance space. I find that fascinating, the idea that you aren't just an observer of nature, you're the show.
Think about it. You're on El Capitan. Below you, in El Cap Meadow, are hundreds of tourists with binoculars and these massive telephoto lenses. They are watching you.
You're the gladiator.
You are the gladiator. If you get stuck, they watch you struggle. If you fall, they gasp. It adds this whole layer of psychological pressure.
It's one thing to be scared because you're high up and your leg is shaking from exhaustion. It's another thing entirely to be scared while a tour bus drives underneath you and 100 people are tweeting about, that guy stuck on the ledge.
Precisely. If you can't handle the pressure of performing or just a feeling of being watched, this might not be the spot for you. It's a very public arena. You are part of the exhibit, just as much as the bears or the waterfalls.
Okay, let's move from the philosophy to the concrete experience. Let's say we've done our military-grade planning, we've accepted the crowds, we are arriving. What is that first 24 hours actually like? Because the drive-in is supposed to be part of the magic.
Well, let's look at the approach logistics.
Sure.
You're likely flying into Fresno or San Francisco. You rent your car. You drive the hours inward to the Arch Rock entrance. And the first impression described isn't majesty.
It's brace lights.
It's brake lights, a complete standstill. It's the paradox of access. You're surrounded by these massive pine trees. The air is getting crisp. Your anticipation is building, and you are idling.
For how long?
You're watching the bumper sticker on the Subaru in front of you for 45 minutes, an hour. But then eventually you get through it, and you hit the Wawona Tunnel.
Oh, the tunnel. I feel like even people who haven't been there know this moment. It's the classic desktop wallpaper moment.
It's legendary for a reason, and the transition is just so jarring. You are in a dark, tiled tunnel for what feels like a long time. Then you pop out, and suddenly the whole world it opens up.
El Cap, Half Dome, all of it.
You see El Capitan on the left, Bridal Veil Fall on the right, Half Dome in the back. But here's the interesting thing. The guide describes this as an uncanny valley feeling.
Uncanny Valley. Like it looks fake.
Exactly. It looks like a matte painting from an old Hollywood movie set. The scale is so massive and the air is often so clear that your brain can't quite process the depth.
You lose perspective.
Totally. You look at El Capitan and you think, oh, I could walk over to that wall in 5 minutes. In reality, it's miles away.
Numbers just fail you at that point, don't they? You can say 3,000 feet.
They do. 3,000 feet of granite is just an abstract number. It doesn't become real until you squint and you see these tiny microscopic specks of color on the wall. And then you realize, wait, those are people. And they are barely moving. That's when the scale breaks your brain.
But then you descend into the valley, you navigate the loop, and you head to Camp 4. And this is where the romantic history really clashes with the modern reality, because Camp 4 is the Holy Land. It's where the Stone Masters lived, where the history of American climbing was written.
It is historic. It is practically a UNESCO World Heritage Site for climbers. But the reality described here is pungent.
Pungent.
The guide calls it a refugee camp for Patagonia models.
That is a savage but probably very accurate description.
It's so accurate, you have tents pitched literally guy line to guy line. You have the smell of unwashed synthetic fabric, which holds onto body odor like nothing else, mixed with the smell of weed, pine dust, and campfire smoke.
Sure.
It's gritty, it's dusty, it's loud.
But there's an energy there too, right? It's not just misery and dirt.
Oh, absolutely. That's the flip side. Despite the conditions, everyone there is speaking the same language. You walk to the bathrooms, and you hear snippets of conversation about beta.
Beta, that's the climber slang for strategy.
Exactly. Did you stick the move?
Yeah.
How's the run out? Did you send? It feels like being at the Olympic Village for dirtbags. There is this electric buzz in the air.
Yeah, that sense of tribe is powerful. Even if you're just there to scramble on some boulders, you feel the weight of history. You can look at a rock, Midnight Lightning, for example, and think, Yvonne Chouinard touched that. Royal Robbins touched that.
It's intimidating, but it's also infectious. It creates this feedback loop of excitement. You ignored the dirt and the crowds because you feel like you're part of the lineage.
Okay, so the vibes are high, but let's talk about the finances, because the guide calls Yosemite a wallet vampire, which I think is a fantastic and terrifying term.
This is where we need to pull out the spreadsheets, because there's a huge misconception that climbing is a cheap sport. It's just rocks, right?
Nature is free. That's the whole point.
Nature is free, but access to it in Yosemite is aggressively monetized. The guide breaks down the costs into tiers, and the accommodation is the single biggest variable.
Let's start with the Dirtbag dream. Can you still do it cheap? Is that even possible anymore?
It's getting harder and harder. The dream is Camp 4. It costs between $6 and $10 a night. Dirt cheap.
That sounds amazing.
It does. But this is a huge, but it's mostly a lottery system now. You can't just show up and claim a spot like you could in the 70s. You have to apply online weeks or months in advance.
So the price is low, but the availability is almost zero.
Exactly. It's like winning a scratch-off ticket just for the privilege of sleeping in the dirt.
Okay, so say you lose the lottery, which you probably will. What's the mid-range if you aren't rich but you need a place to sleep?
You're looking at housekeeping camp or Curry Village. Now listen to this value proposition because it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
You are paying between $150 to $200 a night.
Okay, that's hotel pricing. That's downtown city pricing.
And for that price, what do you get? You get a canvas tent with a door, maybe a bare light bulb.
Wait, hold on. $200? For a tent with no bathroom? How do they justify that valuation?
Monopoly. Pure and simple. Where else are you going to go? It's pure supply and demand. You are paying for the location, not the amenities. The sheets might be thin, the tent might be a little moldy, but you are sleeping under Half Dome, and they know you'll pay for it.
And then there's the high end, the Awani.
Formerly the Majestic, yeah. This is for the 1%. $600 to $1,000, sometimes more per night. This is for the wealthy climber, or more likely the wealthy tourist who wants steak dinner and a fireplace after looking at the cliffs. But for most of us, that's completely out of reach.
And it's not just where you sleep, it's what you eat. The guide talks about the Walmart strategy.
Yes, if you buy your food inside the park, you're going to bleed money. The smart move, the only move really, is to buy absolutely everything in Fresno or Modesto or wherever you land before you enter the park.
Stock up on ramen.
Ramen, tuna, peanut butter, whiskey. You cook on a jet boil. That keeps your food costs down to around $15 a day.
But if you succumb to the park pricing, say you're exhausted and you just crave a burger.
It hurts. A mediocre burger is $20 plus. A pizza is $25, $30. The grocery store inside the village has a markup of about 40% over standard retail. It's captive market pricing at its finest.
And don't forget the hidden costs. I was shocked to read about the showers. You have to pay to get clean.
$5. And that isn't for some spa experience. That's usually to stand in a line for 20 minutes to get a dribble of lukewarm water before a timer cuts you off.
That's rough.
Then there are guide services. If you aren't an expert and you want to climb a classic route safely, a private guide is going to run you $400 to $600 for one day.
So if we total this up for a hypothetical 5-day trip, what are we looking at?
The guide gives us 3 basic bands. The Dirtbag approach. If you get lucky with the Camp 4 lottery and eat nothing but ramen, you might get away with $400 to $600.
Okay.
The Weekend Warrior. Staying in those expensive tent cabins, eating a burger or two is $1,500 to $2,000.
And the guided comfort trip.
You're easily looking at $4,000 to $5,000.
That is wild. $5,000 to sleep in a valley.
And here is the expert analysis on value from the guide. The value is high only if you are self-sustaining. If you bring your own gear, your own food, your own tent, it's magical. If you rely on the park infrastructure, the beds, the cafeterias, the quality-to-price ratio is terrible, you are paying premium prices for minimal comfort.
Okay, so we know it's crowded, we know it's expensive. But let's say we're committed, we're going. The guide outlines 3 great traps that ruin trips. This is the stuff that, if you don't know about it, you're just going to have a bad time.
This is the most critical part of the deep dive, I think. Trap number 1 is the recreation.gov lottery.
This is the permit system to just enter the park, right? Not even to camp, just to drive in.
Correct. During peak season, which is basically April to late October, you need a reservation just to drive your car through the gate between 5 a.m. and 4 p.m. The trap is thinking, oh, I'll just grab one a week before.
And I assume they're long gone.
They vanish in minutes. They release a batch months in advance and then a tiny batch 2 days before. It's like trying to get Taylor Swift tickets. You are sitting there at 6:59 a.m. hitting refresh, heart pounding, 7:00 a.m. hits, you click, and it says, sold out.
So what's the hack? How do you beat the algorithm? The guide mentions an alpine start.
The hack is to beat the clock. You enter the park before 5 a.m. The rangers don't man the booths until 5 or 6 a.m. If you drive through the gate at 4:30 a.m., there is no line, there is no need for a reservation, and you are legally inside the park for the day.
So the secret is just extreme sleep deprivation.
Basically. But honestly, if you're there to climb in the summer, you should be waking up that early anyway to beat the heat on the wall. So it kind of forces you into a better climbing schedule.
Okay, so wake up painfully early.
Yeah.
Got it. What's trap number 2?
The Valley Loop traffic. The geography of the Valley roads is a nightmare. It's a series of one-way loops. If you miss your turn, say you missed the turnoff for El Cap Meadow because you were looking at the view.
You can't just make a U-turn.
You can't. You might have to drive a 45-minute circle in bumper-to-bumper traffic just to get back to where you were 500 feet ago. Yeah. It is soul-crushing. You can literally watch your day evaporate sitting in your car.
So how do we fix this? Just don't drive.
Exactly. Bicycles. The guide calls bikes the ultimate cheat code for the valley. You park your car once at your campsite, and you never move it again until you leave. The valley is flat. You can ride from Camp 4 to the base of El Cap faster than you can drive during peak hours, and you weave right past all the RVs.
I love that image. Bypassing the gridlock on a 10-speed. Okay, trap number 3. This one is specific to the climbing itself. The gear haul and tunnel vision.
This is a physical trap, first and foremost. You look at a climbing guidebook or an app, and the approach to the climb looks short. You think, oh, it's just a 15-minute walk to the base.
But it's not a sidewalk, is it?
No. It's usually a 45-degree slope of loose scree rocks that slide under your feet with every single step. And you're likely doing it with a 70-pound haul bag on your back because you're bringing water and gear for a big wall.
So people just burn out before they even start climbing?
They vastly underestimate the physical toll of just getting to the climb. By the time they touch the rock, their legs are shot.
And the tunnel vision part?
That's the psychological trap. Everyone comes to Yosemite with a checklist. They've seen the movies. They want to climb the nose on El Cap or Snake Dike on Half Dome. They're the famous routes.
Sure, you want to climb the classics.
But the result is that you spend your entire vacation waiting in line at a belay station, staring at someone's butt while they struggle with a knot for 20 minutes.
That sounds miserable. You travel all that way just to wait in line vertically?
It is. The fix, according to the guide, is to embrace the obscure. Go to the cathedral spires. Go to Tuolumne Meadows in the high country. The rock quality is exactly the same. It's the same granite batholith, but there's nobody there.
So you have to ask yourself, do I want to climb the route or do I just want to climb?
That's the question. Do you want the Instagram photo or the actual experience?
Let's shift gears to safety, because we talked about the fear of dying making you feel alive. But beyond just falling off the mountain, what are the specific, maybe less obvious dangers the guide highlights?
Gravity is the obvious one, yeah, but the subtle killer here is the granite polish. We touched on this earlier, but it's worth diving into. You have to remember, millions of rubber climbing shoes have stepped on these exact same footholds over the last 50 years.
So it actually changes the rock, it wears it down.
It polishes it like a marble countertop. On the popular routes, the rock is slippery like glass. You go to step on a foothold that looks totally solid, and your foot just skates off.
That is terrifying.
It feels like climbing on ice. The guide recommends keeping your hands because the granite crystals are so sharp they'll shred your skin, but trusting your feet on that polish requires a mental leap of faith that most gym climbers just don't have.
And then there's the heat. The guide calls the walls reflector ovens.
This is simple physics. A south-facing granite wall reflects solar radiation perfectly. It acts like a giant mirror. It could be a pleasant 70 degrees in the valley with a breeze and 110 degrees on the wall.
You're getting cooked from both sides.
You are baking from the sun above and the rock reflecting it from below. Dehydration is a huge risk.
There's a story in the notes about a rescue on Royal Arches related to this, right?
Right. A climber cramped up so badly from dehydration that they couldn't move. Their muscles just seized. They had to be hauled off the wall by the search and rescue team.
And they had been drinking water.
That's the crazy thing. They drank plenty of water, but they drank only water. They flushed all the salt out of their system. They had no electrolytes.
So the takeaway is bring the salt.
Electrolytes are not optional. If you don't bring salt tablets or a mix, you are a rescue waiting to happen on a hot day.
Now, we have to talk about the wildlife. Bears. I think everyone knows don't feed the bears. But the behavior described here is unsettlingly intelligent.
Ah, the Yosemite black bear. The guide describes them not as grizzlies, they aren't going to hunt you down and eat you, but as oversized raccoons. They are master thieves.
They call them car peelers, which is a terrifying visual.
It's not an exaggeration. These bears have learned the mechanics of vehicles. If you leave a scented item, even just a tube of toothpaste or a candy wrapper, in your Honda Civic, a bear can hook its claws into the top of the door frame and literally peel the door open like a sardine can.
No.
They know the leverage points. It's incredible. So the bear boxes in the campsite aren't just a suggestion.
It's federal law.
It's federal law. If you leave food out, you get a huge fine. And worse, the bear gets a taste for human food and eventually has to be put down. So it's life or death for the bear.
And on the wall, it gets even crazier. How do you deal with bears when you're 1,000 feet up?
Well, if you're sleeping on a portalage, a hanging tent, you have to hang your food bag below you on a separate tether.
Why below you?
Because if it's on the ledge with you, a bear might actually traverse the cliff face, shimmying along these tiny ledge systems to get to it.
That is a nightmare scenario. Waking up to a bear sniffing your face on a portalage 1,000 feet off the ground.
It happens. They're incredible climbers.
Okay, we've arrived at the most, let's say, distinctive part of the logistical nightmare. We have to talk about the poop tube.
We have to discuss it. It's the elephant in the room, or the PVC pipe in the room.
Break it down for us. Why do we need a tube? Can't you just, go?
If you are climbing a big wall, which takes multiple days, you cannot just do your business on the wall and toss it. That used to happen in the 60s and 70s. The base of El Capitan became a legitimate biohazard zone. It was disgusting.
I can't even imagine.
So now the ethic and the rule is pack it in, pack it out, everything.
So walk me through the mechanics. You're hanging off a cliff.
You have a specialized bag. You do your business in the bag. Then, because you can't have a bag of waste just swinging around where it might rip, you put that bag inside a sealed PVC pipe, and you haul that PVC pipe up the mountain with you.
And then all the way back down.
And then all the way back down for days.
That is true commitment. You are literally hauling your own waste for 3 days up a cliff.
It is. And the guide puts it perfectly. The indignity is the price of keeping the rock clean. If you aren't willing to haul your own waste, you have no business being on the big walls. It's the unglamorous reality behind those heroic photos.
So we've got poop tubes, we've got car peeling bears, we've got traffic jams. Let's do a vibe check. What are the highs? Why do people put up with all of this?
Despite everything we just said, the highs are transcendent. The guide describes the summit of a road called Nutcracker. It's a moderate, beautiful route. The writer describes sitting on this tiny spire at dawn, eating a squished bagel.
Yeah.
And suddenly, a hawk flies by. But because you are so high up, the hawk is thermaling below you.
Wow, that image. Looking down on a bird in flight, That completely changes your perspective on your place in the world.
It does. And the silence. For those 20 minutes on the summit above all the valley noise, it's just wind and rock. That's the cathedral feeling. That's the drug that keeps people coming back.
And the lows, just to keep us grounded in reality.
The aggression at the crags.
Mm.
When you pack that many type A, adrenaline-fueled personalities into a small space, tempers flare. I've seen fistfights break out over who is next in line for a route.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah. And the noise pollution people blasting techno music on Bluetooth speakers at the base of a climb. It just kills the nature vibe instantly.
And let's not forget the hygiene reality, the pure misery of the Curry Village showers we mentioned.
It's a distinct low. Standing in a puddle of muddy water, shivering, waiting for a timer to run out, it reminds you that you are just one of 4 million cattle moving through the system.
So hearing all this, if I'm listening and thinking, you know what, this sounds like way too much stress, I want the climbing, but I don't want the hassle, are there good alternatives?
Yes. The guide offers a great worth-it matrix with some fantastic alternatives. If you want the granite but you hate the crowds, go to the Eastern Sierras, Bishop or Mammoth.
That's high desert, right? A different vibe.
Yeah, it's vastly different. Open sagebrush, huge mountains, but you can camp for free on BLM land. No gates, no lotteries. It's a much more chill, Wild West vibe.
What if you want that big wall experience, the hanging off a cliff for days part?
But you don't mind sandstone instead of granite. Go to Zion in Utah.
Zion is crowded too, though, right? I've seen the pictures of the Narrows.
It is crowded, but the guide argues the shuttle system is better managed, and the town of Springdale, right outside the gate, has actual good food. You can climb all day and get a gourmet meal at night without being price gouged quite as bad.
What about internationally? Any Yosemite lights out there?
Squamish, British Columbia. Climbers call it Yosemite North. It's a giant granite monolith called the Sheaf. It looks and feels just like Yosemite Rock. But the town is right there. You can walk from a brewery to the base of the climb in 20 minutes. No entrance fees, friendly Canadian vibes.
And if you absolutely must do Yosemite, if it's on the bucket list and you have to check it off.
Then combine it. Do 2 days in the valley for the icons, see El Cap, see the falls, then get in your car and drive up to Tuolumne Meadows.
That's the high country.
It's the high country, about an hour drive up from the valley floor. It's quieter, the air is thinner, the rock has these golden knobs on it. It feels like the Yosemite 50 years ago.
Okay, let's wrap this all up with a final verdict. Is Yosemite worth the hassle? Let's break it down by who you are.
Okay. If you are a dirtbag or a hardcore dedicated climber, yes, but with an asterisk. It's a rite of passage. You cannot call yourself a trad climber and not test yourself on the Capitan, but treat it like a mission, not a vacation. You are there to work.
What if you're a mid-range couple? You climb a bit, you want to hike, maybe you're staying in one of those pricey tent cabins.
Yes, but only if you plan ruthlessly. Wake up at 4 a.m. every day. Accept that you will be exhausted. This is what we call type 2 fun. It's miserable in the moment while you're sweating and scared, but it makes for a great story at the bar later.
Families.
For climbing? No, absolutely not. It's a logistical nightmare to manage safety and kids at the crag there. For sightseeing and ice cream? Sure. But be ready for traffic that will make your kids scream.
And finally, the luxury traveler, the one staying at the Ahwahnee.
Maybe. The Ahwahnee is beautiful, it's historic, the views are incredible. But the guide warns that because they have a total monopoly, the service often doesn't match the price tag. You might be paying $1,000 a night and still get slow service because where else are you going to go?
So the final synthesis, despite the Disneyfication, despite the costs, despite the poop tubes.
We have to say, yes, it is worth it. There is simply no other valley on Earth that looks like this. The density of vertical relief is unmatched.
And the rock itself.
When you actually touch that rock, when you jam your hand into a crack that has been there for millennia, all the cynicism just it evaporates. It remains a cathedral, it's annoying, it's expensive, but it's holy ground.
I love that. So actionable takeaway, if you're listening and you're going to do it, how do you do it right?
The best strategy is late September, or October, as climbers call it. The kids are back in school, the heat breaks, the crowds thin out just a bit. Book your campsite 6 months out to the second. Bring bikes. Do not forget the bikes. And wake up before the sun.
And as the guide concludes, to experience the wildest place on Earth, you have to submit to the most rigid urban management. It's a paradox, but it's the price of admission.
It is. Just remember to check your knots.
See you out there.